Hey, Get Brocked here. Today we're going to be looking at a resource processing base for the Khan's Enclave Empire, or faction, in my survival slash RP slash whatever you want to call it server. This thing is a impressive display of Space Engineers building, and I wanted to showcase it beyond just its usage in the series. So here we are today. We're going to go through it. I'll show you around a little bit, so if you don't want to download it, you can kind of more appreciate what this thing is, because in the video, well, I mean, you'll see the B-roll in the background, but in the video you'll see we're kind of fighting our way through it, and we don't have time to, look at the scenery. So we'll look through some of the things. If you find this interesting, go ahead on down below. My boy Bode and a lot of people, which I'll have on screen, helped out with this project and did so in a very short amount of time. Created something really, really cool that we don't typically see all too often in the Space Engineers community. It really reminds me of Farside Station, which is just a Herculean-sized base with a lot of attention to detail, love, crafting, care, so on and so forth. Right? So I'll kind of guide you through the base, talk a little bit about it, and then I'll send you on your way to go click on that link and download it, because honestly, checking it out yourself in person is way more exciting than having some random washed up YouTuber kind of go through the details of the base. A little bit of background: if you don't follow my Space Engineers series, this belongs to the Khan's Enclave, which is a warrior caste type faction. So unlike a lot of other resource processing facilities, which might be a temporary emplacement, process resources and then everyone goes home for the day, people in the Khan's Enclave are either part of the warrior class, the hidden aristocrat class, or they're part of the worker class. And as a result, your job is actually much closer to your life. So everyone that works here lives here. It also has provisions, as you'll see, for POWs, because the war's in full effect and work still needs to get done. And, well, at this point in the war, the Khans are doing quite well, and they have a lot of POWs to work with. So you'll notice both militaristic housing and kind of prison-like themes throughout this thing, as well as just being incredibly industrial. Finally, a very important thing to consider: regardless of what the themes and lore behind this base was, it was actually fundamentally designed to be a base that was assaulted by the main group of people in the series, while being defended by a similarly sized force. So you'll see a lot of things, because this is a slice of time for when that moment happened, and you'll see that almost immediately. Let's look at some exterior features before heading on inside. Once again, you'll notice a POW camp of sorts. You'll see the fire and the huts, that's the orange and yellow stripes, and we'll head down there soon enough, and you'll kind of see what I'm getting at. You'll see a lot of watchtowers. There are a lot of stairs to get up to higher levels and to access the refining areas, the storage areas, whatever you want to call it. Moving around, we see a large number of processing sites. This one, as humans do, we're putting beautiful shit into the atmosphere. Green, oh, that looks delicious. Not carcinogenic at all. A bunch of watchtowers, and then obviously silos to store gas, liquid, or what have you, being a resource processing facility. Moving around, you can just see the level of detail. Like, everywhere you go, there is something to look at, and then there's more somethings to look at. Here you have vents to off-gas whatever you're off-gassing. Generally heat. These are more radiator-like, well, those off-gas things. You get back here, you see the remnants of a former railed station, but this thing was obviously abandoned and ceased to be used after a certain amount of time, but people were lazy and left around shipping containers, and the crane is still accessible should this area decide to be used again, right? And it's still useful in the sense that you can, well, probably drive a vehicle up here, though typically you would probably use the front loading bay. The new default, or the new standard method, is the use of void crafts or spaceships or whatever you want to call them. They would land here, you load them up with resources, and then they, go where they need to go to supply the war effort. Walk out here, access them, and then you have a control tower up here to kind of control them. You'll notice a lot of these rooms are empty, and once again, that ties back to the reality that this is a PvP playground, for the lack of a better term, as well as being a lore thing. And certain things just have to get cut, right? for performance reasons, time reasons, and realistic reasons. And, well, a lot of these rooms you're going to find are going to be empty. But exteriorly, these look cool. And hey, this is on the workshop. You're allowed to modify it. So if you'd like to, go populate those rooms if you want to make this an encounter in and of itself. We have typical landing pad shenanigans over here, where crafts can come and land. You actually don't really see this in our PvP assault on this base, which is one of the reasons why I kind of want to head over. Tons of just very minor details, right? This is like, if you break a vessel, it'll come over here and it'll get repaired. This is the seat of power for the Khans on this moon, as well as being a processing facility, so it needs the ability to sustain its own fighter crafts and more. Swinging around front, we'll kind of go check this place out now. This is the main entry area. As you'll notice, this thing is currently not very hospitable. Yes, that's a dual-barrel 400mm pointing directly at my face, as well as a spotlight, and a bunch of stuff to kind of prevent the ingress of vehicled or tracked vehicles. And once again, that is because this base is on red alert. It knows an attack is coming, and I'll occasionally roll footage throughout, kind of showing that off. This base came under assault, and you'll see a lot of things kind of here that prep for that assault. I think I'm going to zoom through these areas quite rapidly, and God, I hate this song. But a large part of this base is, once again, something for people to live in, right? The people that work here, while they are part of the worker class, still need some amenities, and you'll see a lot of shops, facilities, restaurants, entertainment, the list goes on, scattered throughout the facility to kind of support itself as a home and a work facility. We'll see a lot of propaganda posters throughout, and you also see a lot of doors like this. I'll get back to those in a bit, but notice them scattered throughout. Zooming through here, you kind of just see a lot of the base, and you'll see a lot of access points are cut off to kind of funnel the attackers down a very predetermined path, which both in lore is useful to defeat an attacker, right? Increase the surface area you can engage them over, but also for the sake of the design, this is a PvP battleground. You'll notice a lot of housing up here. This is where a lot of personnel can live, right? Depending on who you are, you might have better or worse housing. As you meander through the structure, you'll enter into stairwells. This is the main stairwell that spans the majority of the verticality of this base. Once you get to about a certain height, it actually ceases to continue to go up, even though the stairs do continue. And this is just to funnel you to the middle floors. It seems a storm has come out, because they always come out. But out here you'll notice a sort of basketball-ian court, although it sort of reminds me of the Fallout 4 or Fallout universe power armor racks, but yeah, this is more of a basketball-style court for the future, whatever they do. I don't know, con ball? As we move throughout the facility, you see more of its industrial-esque nature interspliced with, well, entertainment, utility, so on and so forth. As you view it from the outside, you'll notice it's adorned with a lot of, well, weapons, and that's because, well, this base needs to be defended. Typically from rebels, actually, is the growing concern. As anti-orbital systems, this isn't very well good at defending itself from a orbital battery, and the reality is ships would handle something like that. As you get to the top, you'll notice this thing, and it's a kill switch. Which brings me to those little doors I mentioned earlier. This facility, because it's designed for PvP, has a variable respawn system. Thus, when you get to the top here, you press the button, it kills all of the respawn points. Thus, the hostile force has been defeated and it can no longer respawn. Because in reality, if it was a 10v10, everyone would die in the opening salvo, and that would be that. And that is not fun. So, you have you have these doors. Let me go find one here real quick. Of course, I can't find one as soon as I need to find one. Oh, here's one. You'll notice these doors. These doors are indicated as such so the assaulting force doesn't go into them, because they actually lead nowhere, but they're actually these empty rooms, and if you go up It's a one-way journey from a respawn point. Thus, as the enemy pushes throughout the facility, you can respawn, disable it, and you will consume these respawn points, thus always putting an enemy ahead of you, making it so that a force of roughly 5 to 10 people can appear to be a much larger force. That is a very cool aspect of this base that cannot be understated how well it's designed. Let me hit up a couple other locations. I won't show you all of them. I just want to show you a couple, and you can explore the rest because that's really the fun of it. Let's go to the pit. This is the pit. The Khans have a weird, sick fascination with hydrogen thrusters and hanging around them. You see them on all their ships and more. Here, you kind of have a Colosseum vibe, if we want to call it that, where, this is where the individuals go when they need, they have their 1 month per day, or 1 day per month off to go hang out, chill, probably get drunk, and watch something happen. This is the Khans, so God knows what they do in this room. It looks very Colosseum-like, very Fight Clubby-like. You got, your upper area for individuals to commentate it. You got your ceiling adorned with advertisement and propaganda, the usual. So who knows what they do in here, but damn, it does look good. This is that POW camp I mentioned earlier. It's sort of been rapidly furnished. I imagine at some point in this history, this was actually just regular housing or storage area, as you can see by these military-style bunkers. A fire pit to stay warm, because it's cold as shit out here. However, with the war with the Khans and the COA, the coalition, kicking off, and the Khans being incredibly successful, they have achieved or gained, or whatever you want to call it, a lot of prisoners of war. And you can see these impromptu huts being set up in the area to, house these individuals because, hey, it's free labor, something. And you'll notice this entire area is surrounded with wiring, or whatever you want to call this, corrugated wiring. And, you're not allowed to leave this area. Here is the individual showering area, right? You use your, so on and so forth. As we, Is that a dead body? Oh, I've been told that there are some Easter eggs throughout here. So hey, if you want to see some Easter eggs, maybe go check what goes on behind the scenes here. So as you proceed through the prisoner of war area, pretty miserable housing, especially considered the temperature of this planet. We move in, and this enters the actual proper area where the main inhabitants live. And you can see housing over there. You can see a store over there, stores over here. The list goes on, but I'll let you guys explore that. And also the fuck you package for those that come in, as kind of brings us back to the starting point. All right, that is all. Once again, Bode and a lot of people helped him create this wonderful base. And I think he would appreciate, and honestly, you would appreciate, if you went to his workshop page, downloaded this thing and explored it for yourself, maybe used it in one of your worlds as a starting point, or maybe as a self-contained world. This is big enough that you can have multiple factions living in it and have really cool encounters play out in this world. It's quite large. Regardless, go head over there, hit them up, support our homies, and thanks for watching. See you guys for the next